January 31st, 1961. A Mercury rocket is about to launch a passenger into space. No human being has ever embarked on this perilous journey. A young African chimpanzee will be facing the danger. He's 4 years old. His name is Ham, and he has little chance of survival. The entire staff of NASA has been concentrating on this objective for months. Hundreds of engineers have meticulously prepared this record-breaking event. And yet, no one knows if Ham will survive. On this historic morning, Ham is perched on top of 40 tons of steel and explosives, an enormous bomb. The temperature in the cockpit has reached over 140 degrees. Will he make it? All of America is watching him. All of America and me, Jeff, more than anyone else. They're going to send my chimpanzee into space. But why?
Countdown. 5 seconds to liftoff. Ready for liftoff. 3, 2, 1, liftoff.
What madness has made men undertake this improbable adventure? And how did this animal become a part of it? This unbelievable story began 4 years earlier in the jungles of Central Africa. His clan had never seen humans. The first hint of man arrived by night, like a frightening omen. A strange light traveled across the sky, like a new star.
Today, a new moon is in the sky, a 23-inch metal sphere placed in orbit by a Russian rocket. Here an artist's conception of how the feat was accomplished.
The news hit America as it was waking up. The Soviets had successfully put a satellite in orbit.
Three-stage rocket. Number 1, the booster in the class of an intercontinental missile. Its weight estimated at 50 tons. The smaller second stage took over at 5,000 miles an hour and carried on to the highest point reached. 500 miles up, the artificial moon is boosted to a speed...
It was a slap in America's face. The world's greatest power was lagging behind in the space race against its bitter communist rivals. Thus began the real race for the stars. I was only 22 at the time, a private in the U.S. Air Force. They called me Jeff. To me, the space race was a dream, but my hardest job at the time was sweeping up. In those days, everyone felt that the power controlling space would control the world. Sputnik had blown a cold, panicky wind over the general staff. All the heads of the space program were called together. They had to catch up with the Russians, whatever the cost. The number 1 goal was to put a man into space. Goal number 2 was to bring him back alive.
What are our options?
Colonel Blackwell, the first thing to verify is that weightlessness has no effect on psychomotor functions.
Okay, I get the picture. Here's what we're gonna do. You take some of our chimpanzees and set up a specific training program with them. We'll let them fly in place of human beings until we're sure everything works. We'll call them astro-chimps. Ha!
They had a plan B. Should the dangers prove too great, they would send up chimpanzees. Astronaut monkeys. I had no idea that this decision was going to change my life forever. And not only mine. They were hunted down, and among the victims was Ham's mother. The hunters kept Ham alive, taking him to town to be sold.
Airman Jeffrey Schaefer. I'm giving you a new assignment. More than an assignment, really. A downright mission. Have you heard of Project Mercury?
No, Colonel Blackwell.
You're the son of a farmer, Private Schaefer. A man with soil on his shoes. You grew up surrounded by animals. Your mission was to take charge of a young chimpanzee. This animal is of the utmost importance to our space program. You'll be in charge of feeding and caring for him. You're responsible for his survival. Any questions, Schaefer?
Colonel Blackwell, this is my chimp. What's my chimp's name?
He's registered as number 65. I'm not asking you a lot. Just keep him alive, that's all.
Project Mercury. Finally, I was given a promotion. I was going to take part in the great space race. They sent out missions everywhere in Africa. Project Mercury needed about 30 young chimps. Young due to their size so that they could fit into the rocket, and 30 so that they would have a choice. In the end, only one would take off into space. In only a few days, the chimps arrived at our base in Holloman, New Mexico. We were a group of 30 soldiers who had all received the same orders. I was sure that my chimp would be the best among the group, and that I would become a hero in the conquest of space. The reality was that my chimp was covered with fleas and parasites. He was in pretty poor shape. The veterinarians immediately put him into quarantine to avoid contamination. Most of the monkeys came from African farms or orphanages. They were already used to humans. Mine was bought from a meat market. They said that he was still clinging to his mother's body when he was sold. Hey, little fella. Here you go. Come on. I'm gonna hurt you. You didn't need a degree in chimp zoology to know that this animal was suffering. It was obvious. The colonel had chosen me because I'd been raised on a farm, but I hadn't seen many chimpanzees in the American countryside. I wondered what he was feeling. Did he remember his childhood in the forest? Did he even have a memory?
Well, bebop Lula, she's my baby. Bebop Lula.
40 days went by, and all the chimps in Project Mercury were let out of quarantine. They were gathered together for a press photo. The handlers were mostly all guys like me, who took their assignment very seriously. They all wanted their chimp to be champ. Mine was not about to become a champ of anything. My number 65 wasn't even out of quarantine. In fact, he wasn't getting any better, and I didn't really know how to help him. In our unit, there was also number 87 and his handler, Bob. 87 was robust and in good health, and Bob was sure his chimp would win right from the start. He would be the first to travel into outer space. Every 3 days, I had to take my 65 to the veterinarian for a checkup. The decision to let him out of quarantine was in their hands. But my 65 couldn't stand the exams. The new faces, the hands on his body, the pharmaceutical smells. Every time they gave him back to me, he was traumatized, and it only got worse. I had the impression he was letting himself die.
Do you have any idea how much one of those Spacechimps cost the U.S. Air Force?
No, Colonel, sir.
$500. 6 times your paycheck. So get with it, Schaefer. If he dies, I'm holding you personally responsible.
It was impossible. I just couldn't let him die like that. That night, I adopted a new method. I left his cage door open at all times, so he would be free to come out and find his own comfort zone and distance from me.
Want some? No? Okay. It's good. Come on. You don't want any? Too bad for you? Tired, huh? I'll leave it right here for you. Oh. Sweet dreams.
I spent all my time in the cage room, hoping that he would finally understand that I meant him no harm, that we could become pals. And one night it worked. He came to me, and everything changed.
You'll be fine. Look, I'm here to help you, okay? And that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna help you get better. You need to eat. You need to get some food and some exercise, okay? Just try and get better. Come on, that's an order.
In just a few days, he'd started eating again and becoming interested in his surroundings. He came back to life. I'd succeeded. Holloman was the medical laboratory of the U.S. Air Force. Here they explored the limits of human resistance to extreme conditions such as radiation exposure, weightlessness, extreme gravity, and shock resistance. They wanted to find out just how far man could go, how much pressure the human body could withstand. The results of these tests allowed our engineers to develop spacecraft specially adapted to human beings. Our chimps were to undergo the same tests. Then one fine day, the quarantine ended. We could finally leave the cage room, see people, and enjoy the daylight. Our unit had a mess hall. Bob used to go there with his star, number 87. His chimp had passed the first test with flying colors.
Hey, farm boy. Why don't you feed him like a chicken? That may work.
Try it. It's only the top dogs that get space.
You know that. Don't waste your time. Stop wearing yourself out.
Yours doesn't stand a chance.
What you got? You got that, huh? Oh. I think you need a bath. You stink. You know that? You stink. Me, Tarzan. You, 65. What kind of a name is that, huh? 65. You have to give you a real name. How about, Friday? No. How about Ham? That's it. Me, Tarzan. You, Ham. We, kings of outer space.
The kings of outer space. Taking part in this great adventure was the dream of every American. Project Mercury was a huge undertaking. Hundreds of scientists and thousands of technicians worked on it day and night. The budgets were limitless. In practice, it was an incredible blend of do-it-yourself experimentation and avant-garde technology. The main problem was the presence of a living being in the capsule. They had to ensure his survival and his capacity to continue to function in space. Constructing a life-supporting cabin for space travel implied a whole battery of tests. The ability to tolerate claustrophobia, restricted movement, resistance to heat, and the problems related to evacuating natural body waste. Then came the first day of training. Now the first real test was about to begin. His reaction to isolation. He would be all alone in the capsule, so they had to teach him how to accept his solitude calmly. Not such an easy task for animals as sociable. The idea was for him to respond to the light signals by pressing the corresponding lever. If he didn't press the right lever, he was punished. Ham didn't understand a thing. All he could think of was freeing himself from his constraints. I had succeeded in getting Ham to trust me, but my absence during his test sessions began to undermine his confidence in me.
All right, fine. Look, Ham, I'll leave you alone. You don't want to come down? Too bad for you. Look, it's not my fault. I don't call the shots, Ham. I'm just a soldier. And soldiers obey orders. You could obey some orders too, you know.
Teach him something was to invent a game for him. It was just a matter of finding the right game. The engineers were asking him to push on a lever, so I took the lever from the lab. He had to start showing some interest in it. It had to become a toy. And it worked. Ham really got down to business. His training consisted of 3 stages. During the first stage, Ham had to push the lever to the right when a red light flashed. A white light signaled that he had done a good job. To ensure that Ham stayed concentrated, a blue light flashed randomly on the board. He then had 5 seconds to push on the lever to the left. During the second stage, he had to push the middle lever 50 times when a yellow light appeared. After the 50th time, he was rewarded with a treat. The last and most difficult stage consisted of teaching Ham patience. When the green light flashed, Ham was to push the central lever, then wait for 20 seconds before pushing it again. But to a chimp, 20 seconds can be an eternity. Project Mercury was moving ahead, but the Soviets kept on turning up the pressure. Then one morning the news arrived. We'd been caught by surprise once again.
Carrier rocket of a new design with foolproof precision controls put the satellite into its computed orbit. As we all know, Sputnik number 2 also has a passenger, a dog, a living creature far in...
We all remember the first Soviet Sputnik. Well, now they'd gone one better by sending a living creature, a female dog named Laika, into space.
Over the life expectancy of the dog inside an air-conditioned space cabin. In the United States, the headquarters in Washington for...
In one fell swoop, the Russians pulled even further ahead. But we would go them one better. Laika had died in space because they didn't know how to bring her back. We were planning to bring our astronauts back alive. After this new slap in the face by the Soviets, NASA really turned up the pressure. Engineers, astronauts, pilots, generals and privates, scientists and mechanics, everyone doubled their efforts. It was decided that after its space flight, the capsule would land in the Atlantic Ocean, just off Cape Canaveral. There were a ton of problems to overcome. The capsule had to stand up to the vacuum of space, to overheating, and returning into the atmosphere. It was the heat shield that was causing the most problems. And finally, the capsule had to float. In July of 1960, a Mercury Atlas prototype rocket was launched with a capsule attached to the tip. Technically speaking, the Atlas was the most advanced of the American carrier rockets.
Ignition.
While they searched in vain through the rocket's scattered debris to try to understand what had happened, it became more and more apparent that the chimps would be launched into space before humans. The risk was too great. That worried me. My job was to do everything I could to make Ham the best. But the more efficient he became, the harder the tests. It was a kind of spiral. The better he got, the greater his chances of dying. Training resumed. They put him on a jet sled to test his ability to withstand acceleration. It was a simulated takeoff without a cockpit. Just think, 300 meters a second for a forest-dwelling creature. In Web 1960, a lot of whose coverage was given to a new rocket that was being tested. It would signal our return to the space race. Then we would see who was top dog.
Ignition.
That was my nightmare. The rocket took off with Ham on board, while all I could do was stand by and watch as the rocket blew up and Ham's body went up in smoke.
I'm talking to you, buddy. Mr. Lord Astroship candidate. You know what? The NASA brain boys are having, I think you know. They're not dumb. They'll find out what's wrong and fix it up. Keep this. It's not over until you win. You'll make it.
Training continued. Ham became a pro with the levers, and he was picking up speed. His reaction time was nearly impossible to beat. The more the lab technicians accelerated their machinery, the better Ham performed. It was as if he were challenging them. Ham broke all the records. He went so fast that sometimes the human eye couldn't even keep up. Ham was one of the 3 chimps pre-selected as final candidates. The people at the base began to look at us differently.
Have you grown up? Wait a minute.
Suddenly, I was no longer the hick from the farm. I was the partner of Ham, fastest chimp in the West. Some people were delighted, others less so. Chimp 87 was also selected, with excellent test results.
They tell me you're a chick that's been judge fit for service. Yep. I gotta say, I'm surprised. But so is mine. Good luck. Oh.
The day came when they had to try on Ham's spacesuit.
Okay, I got it.
It had been made to his exact measurements. But to protect Ham's body from a sudden drop in cabin pressure, the suit had to be very tight-fitting. The suit also kept the electrodes in place that served to monitor his heartbeat, his breathing, his body temperature, and his vital functions.
There. Gently.
Too many hands, too much stress, and too many new faces each time. He flipped out. I was beside myself. The further along we got, the less I could live with my assignment. Ham was putting up with all these tests for only one reason, to receive my affection. He was doing it all for me. But what was I in the process of doing to him? On December 19th, 1960, a new Redstone rocket was launched. We'd lost all hope. But then...
Attention! As you were, men. Well, I see you're already aware of the good news. Now, what you probably don't know is that the honor of being the first unit to attempt a flight with a live passenger has been bestowed on us. Congratulations. And, pack your bags, because the whole crew will be going to Cape Canaveral tomorrow at 1700 hours. Airman Schaefer, you'll not be going.
My assignment was over. Ham would be leaving without me.
You'll be all alone, but it'll be okay. Here.
I just know they'll pick you, Ham. You're the best. Look, tomorrow you're gonna take a little John up into the sky, okay? You'll be all alone, but you'll be all right. What you're gonna do, no chimpanzee has done before. And I'll be here when you get back. Look, nothing can happen to you up there. You hear me? Nothing can happen to you. I just know they'll pick you, Ham. You're the best. I'm so proud of you.
Yeah.
Is he ready?
Yeah.
Okay.
No. Take him in your arms.
Okay.
Ham? Go with him, Ham.
Three chimps were leaving for Cape Canaveral, including Ham in 87. The chimp that would go into space would be chosen the night before departure, according to his physical and mental health. This Mercury flight would be the first into space with an inhabited capsule. The mission would be to reach outer space, spend 6 minutes in zero gravity, then return to Earth, all in less than a half an hour. It was Bob who told me. He called me himself from Cape Canaveral. He was livid. They had chosen Ham.
Hey, Chef.
Hey,
Can I borrow this?
sure.
We are now only a few hours away from this historic event in space travel. The first American flight into space with a live passenger. And do you know who will be in the cockpit when it takes off into space? A chimpanzee named Ham. We've been told that the chimp has been wired with several electrodes placed inside his spacesuit, which are connected to the capsule. Using radio signals, the electrodes will make it possible for the command center scientists to monitor all stages of the flight, including the astronaut's data, such as his heartbeat and breathing, as well as the results of the tests he will be performing, just as if he were a real astronaut piloting the spacecraft. A camera is on board to film the entire flight, but no one will be able to talk to the chimp or hear what is going on in the cabin. Once locked into his custom-built cabin, Ham will be able to breathe normally thanks to an air vent specially designed for him. The electrode signals will pass through other wires. When the scientists in charge of his reclining chair are satisfied that he is completely autonomous and hermetically sealed, Ham will be taken to the top of the Redstone rocket and loaded into his space capsule. We have just received word that Ham is ready. He is being taken from the secured area to board the rocket, a short trip of only a few hundred yards. But it will be his last on Earth before his great leap into space. In less than half an hour from now, the engines will be ignited. The technicians are now fitting Ham into the capsule. The final countdown will take us to the moment of truth. The United States is about to become the first nation to send a living creature into space and, if all goes well, bring him back safely.
Velocity 2,257 feet per second. Altitude 4.3 nautical miles. Downrange distance 3 nautical miles.
5 minutes before countdown. I repeat, 5 minutes before countdown.
And the great moment has finally arrived. The final countdown and the firing of the liftoff booster.
10 seconds before liftoff. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Liftoff.
This morning we are coming to you live and direct from Cape Canaveral, where NASA personnel is 500 strong. Everyone here is holding their breath, along with the rest of America. We've just received word from the command center that the rocket's ascension will last 115 seconds. In only half a minute's time, the second stage of the rocket will separate from the first, if all goes well.
How's our chimp doing?
He seems fine. Ham is apparently responding to the test normally. He is reacting calmly to the liftoff's G-force.
The second stage reactors have just been fired. Next step, space and zero gravity. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the moment of truth. Our chimponaut is about to step into the unknown, into the cosmic world where no human has ever gone before.
Going a bit too far, being stabilized.
Leaving the atmosphere in 4 seconds. 3, 2, 1. Zero gravity. Zero gravity.
I was so proud of him. He was born in the jungle, and now he was flying in the stars.
Velocity 0 Gs. Re-entry into the atmosphere in 12 seconds. 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Re-entry.
Now, this is the most dangerous moment of the flight. Re-entry into the atmosphere and the high temperatures created by air friction. They've made an announcement. The heat shield is tilting, and there is danger of overheating, fire, or even disintegration. Excuse me? We've just been told that the antenna has broken off the capsule. All communication has been lost. There's no way of knowing what's happening inside the capsule. The steel capsule that is falling towards the Earth at breakneck speed, heading straight for the Atlantic Ocean. Oh, in what condition will the Marines find it? If they find it. Is this the end of our little chimponaut? Ladies and gentlemen, I will be back on the air as soon as there is an update of the situation.
They had lost him. No one knew where he was. They sent out an armada of boats, planes, and helicopters to find him. They were looking for a green pinpoint on the sea. A bag of green ink was supposed to open upon landing, but they couldn't find anything. Meanwhile, the capsule had sprung a leak and water began to seep in. The weather was deteriorating and night was falling. After 2 hours of intensive search, they finally spotted the capsule. It was sinking. There were only a few minutes left. There were no signals being emitted from the inside of the capsule. Had Ham drowned? They had to attempt the impossible. A helicopter pilot risked his life to hook the capsule before it sank. On January 31st, 1961, Ham became the first living being to return from space alive. It was such a miracle that reporters held the microphone in front of him, hoping he would tell us what it was like. In the next 24 hours, Ham became an international star. Reporters came from around the world to witness the event. Ham had taken the longest voyage ever dreamed of.
So good, I got you. Wow, I feel nice. A sugar and spice. I feel nice. A sugar and spice. So nice, so nice. I got you.
He made the cover of all the magazines and the headlines of all television newscasts. He was even seen in the movie newsreels running in the cinemas.
I know that I can't do no wrong.
The following day, they let me spend a few hours with Ham. A few hours I'll never forget, as long as I live. Ham's flight created an unexpected phenomenon. Suddenly, people understood that chimpanzees were sensitive, intelligent beings with a capacity to reason. Scientists began to study, understand, and protect them.
Look, Em, look. It's you. That's you up there. You're in Newsweek. You're in the paper. They're talking about you in the radio. You're a big star.
Chimpanzees would again be seen in the same light.
Pay and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
Ham opened our route to the stars. Thanks to the 250 improvements made after his flight, Shepard followed him 4 months later, becoming the first American in space.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
In 1969, man walked on the moon. Since that time, we've never ceased to push forward the limits of the unknown. Each time a new limit is surpassed, I can't help but think of Ham, the first one of us all. Ham died of old age 21 years later.